name is Asia. I am the Chief Development Officer for Carnegie Robotics based in Pittsburgh, PA. We have a really cool name, Carnegie, before it, but it is not the university. Okay. So I know half the room's going to walk out. Oh, but I've seen something from CMU. We were actually spun out of Carnegie Mellon University. We have a very close relationship with everybody else here. But with us up here are 4 colleagues from the Pittsburgh area that are all focused in drones, marine, and military. We're going to get to them in just a second. Should I get to them in a second, or can I tell my story? I'm going to tell my story first. So you all are here and you want to, talk about autonomy, etc. And I'm sure a lot of you have also heard about Pittsburgh. Why Pittsburgh? Why is Pittsburgh abuzz globally with all things robotics? Well, yeah, Carnegie Mellon has a lot to do with it, but I figured I'd give you a quick story. I'll give you the quick 90-second whenever people come into our building, what we like to share with. And here's how it goes. Pittsburgh is the robotics capital of the world. We believe that very firmly. Here's why. In the early 90s, CMU, Carnegie Mellon University, and NASA put a bunch of money into a pot. Now, some people may correct me on this story, but this is just how we look at it. CMU and NASA put a bunch of money into a pot. They stirred that pot and out spit out the child, the NREC, the National Robotics Engineering Center, the NREC. That is the large facility that houses the Carnegie Mellon robotics effort. And so the powers that be at the time, they said, where do we want to put this facility? You want to put it on campus? Nah, let's put it in the Lawrenceville district of Pittsburgh. You mean that blighted, run-down former steel town that's about 1.5 miles outside of downtown Pittsburgh? All the steel companies left in the 70s and 80s? Yeah, that place. You mean where the police cars and the sirens and people getting shot every other day? You mean that part of town? Yeah, that part of town. Well, why? Because they have all this amazing building stock. They have these massive warehouses left over from when steel and manufacturing was the mecca in Pittsburgh. Great. So NREC was established. In the early 90s, they had a director, coincidentally happened to be my CEO in my current boss, who helped build the NREC to a few hundred people. And then subsequently, Carnegie Mellon did something really neat. They established the world's first PhD and master's program in robotics. So that's why. A lot of folks from across the globe started to matriculate to Pittsburgh to get this new cutting edge degree. So there's where you started to see this growing of activity in tech and AI that really started to blossom in our backyard, right? And so today, we boast about 120 robotics companies up and down what the media likes to call robotics road, right? A lot of the companies were there before there was a road. The gentleman to my left here is one of those people. Our company was certainly there before there was a road, and there's a lot of upstarts here as well. But the reason I share that story with you is because the 4 people seated to my left are 4 some of the premier companies that we have in our backyard. So we're very happy to have him here in Vegas with us. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sanjiv Singh, who's the founder and CEO of Near Earth Autonomy. I recently found out that Sanjiv was the first master's in robotics out of Carnegie Mellon, possibly the world. So we have Phil Hahn there. Phil was until recently the chief strategy officer for AFWERX, based in Pittsburgh, who has, I believe, as of this week, started a new role with Divergent. He can share all of that with you. Also, Lieutenant Colonel in the service. We have Xiaoyu Kaess, co-founder and COO of Aquatonomy, and we have Olga Pogoda from KEF Robotics, KEF Robotics here, wonderful drone company. So here's our panel, guys. Hey, you done hearing me talk? Right.
Keep it going.
Okay, you got it. Xiaoyu, we'll start with you because you're the nicest one to me today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Aquatonomy? Now, full transparency, I actually learned about your company watching a Sunday news program and said, I really like what you guys are doing. And then 2 days later, I got asked to do a panel.
Oh, what an honor. Thank you. Thank you. I'm Xiaoyu Kaess, co-founder and COO of Aquatonomy. At Aquatonomy, we're creating underwater drones to address the inspection of underwater assets. They're including but not limited to dams, bridges, and forts. and we provide action-driven insights to help the owners make better maintenance decisions and strategize their cost and get confident decisions and get better financial return.
Great. Thank you. Olga, how about you guys?
Hi, my name is Olga. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at AFWERX. At KEF, we work on GPS-denied navigation. So what we try to do is build software that leverages cameras and other very low-cost, off-the-shelf sensors to get an aircraft from point A to point B and back, and then maybe do something smart along the way. And we want to do that in highly contested, GPS-denied communication jams environments.
Well, it's great. I guess I spent a lot of my former years as a flight test engineer out this way. To your point earlier, I need to add 4 line in front of my role at AFWERX. I just, as of this week, transitioned out back to the private sector. AFWERX as a whole, it's the innovation and investment in the Air Force and Space Force. So I spent the last 1.5 years building that out. Really the way that we work in the DoD to bridge the technology gap and work with commercial entities to partner with the government and find pathways through. They go on to the panelists here with me have experienced that process that we've built over the last 4.5 years, and we've executed well over $5 billion in my time at AFWERX. I'm transitioning over to Divergent Technologies. It's a advanced manufacturing company, started out the automobile sector to 3D print vehicles. So Singh is underneath that with supercars. So they're everything from beginning parts. Now I'm working with our former director at AFWERX, Nate Diller, working through develop the aerospace and defense section of Divergent Technologies.
Thanks, Mike. So I'm Sanjiv Singh. I'm the CEO of Near Earth Autonomy. What we do is we build an autonomy stack for all kinds of aircraft, but we're focused on rotorcraft and we're focused on logistics missions. We had a big engagement with the DoD, especially the Marine Corps and the Army, to work on various scales of aircraft. And our value proposition, I like to say, is that we enable aircraft to fly safe, land safe, do it without GPS, even when things go wrong. And the idea is that if the world were perfect and the aircraft were perfect, then, you don't need any sensors and you just take off and fly some going through some breadcrumbs. But in fact, the world is not perfect and all sorts of things in maps are not correct. We have weather, things break down on an aircraft. So what we want is autonomy to be able to do what a pilot would do, which is to deal with the varying conditions on the aircraft. So for different scales of aircraft, this matters differently, but especially if they're flying low, they're going to be, the route that's been given to them is going to go through a tower. They should see the tower and fly around it. So the autonomy part we've been doing for a long time. And the big focus of our company right now is to make sure that the autonomy is there when you need it. So autonomy keeps out of trouble, but how do you know that it's going to be there? And that's what you need. And then you get to a larger aircraft. For example, if you're flying a Black Hawk autonomously, then you better be able to say to all the stakeholders, like, look, here is why even some of the main systems of the aircraft fail during flight, the aircraft is going to be okay. So that's the emphasis on our program of our company. We developed this kind of software and hardware combination that aircraft use to do their mission. Thank you. That's wonderful. So a couple of ground rules that I did not mention at the top. First of all, I didn't share anything about Carnegie Robotics. If you ask later, I'll tell you. But this is really about you guys. And trust me, I will tell you because I'll talk a lot about what we do. Also, if you want to go on social media and you want to start, saying amazing things about this panel, please tag everybody here, their names and their companies, because we're selfish like that. So the thing up here, and it just kind of struck me this morning when we were having our pre-brief, that with respect to autonomy and drones and heck, even AI these days, a lot of the folks probably thought they were going to come in here talking exclusively about commercial type opportunities. However, there is a huge tilt towards defense pretty much in everything that we do on this stage here. How does that, focusing on defense work, how does that help get your product to market and help grow your business? Because after all, we are not nonprofits. So Olga, help us understand that. I think we just had a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen over the years that the military is a great first customer. First of all, they have funding to help you take a very early prototype to something that can be tested even on the front line. And there's various programs that you can go through, and maybe we'll touch on them later. But as we've seen throughout the years, GPS, right? Like we're trying to replace GPS, but GPS itself, when it was first invented, it was first invented for the military. They were the first adopters. They were the first users before it hit the market. So I think what we're seeing with a lot of different technologies is that the DoD is really good at testing things and being that first customer when the commercial market is just not ready for your product yet. It may be in the future, and there's applications that exist, but it just needs time to get there. And that's kind of the space that I live in. So I think that in the future, there'll be plenty of opportunity for our company to work with commercial airlines, with rotorcraft, all different kinds of commercial customers. But right now, it's really defense.
Years ago, I learned about near Earth autonomy. We had not yet known each other, and you had it was published that you were doing some work with Boeing, and that put my antenna up because I always wanted to be a pilot. And Boeing makes airplanes, so maybe I should go work for near Earth autonomy. But again, your business, maybe we will. But your business has really evolved to focus on military work. Can you help explore that?
Yeah, so like Olga said, almost every aviation innovation started with the military. And the idea is that if you look at the commercial world, commercial end users don't want something that is sort of there. It comes with an engine. The military is willing to do that. So big emphasis on robustness, emphasis on performance, but not so much on the economics. So the problem with taking new technology is straight to the commercial world is that it needs very deep markets if you're going to make everything work. It has to be feasible. It has to be easy to use, and it has to be economically viable. So all of those things are hard to make work at the beginning. To get this technology in a military setting where there is funding, there's a lower bar for success and a higher tolerance for risk. This is what makes it much more easy to work. Start with the military, and then of course these things migrate from the internet to GPS to all sorts of other. Every aircraft that has been, except for one aircraft, has started with a military application.
And Xiaoyu, when you and team got Aquatonomy off the ground, was there an emphasis on filling a gap, filling a need for the military services with your product?
Actually, our two technical co-founders started their early career by solving complex national security challenges. One is Dr. Michael Kaess. He dedicated 15 years of academic research on autonomous navigation and mapping in GPS denied environments. And his work was used by the Navy, the Army, funded by the Office of Naval Research and Army Research Labs first. And his work is used in the International Space Station, where we incorporated our company. Our second technical co-founder also dedicated his work in marine robotics collaboration. He was an award winner of a Young Investigator Award by the Navy Office of Naval Research. And so we're kind of a testament of how national security needs drone innovation that later we could use as a solid technical foundation in commercial applications. I'll continue to observe this as a trend. National security applications drive, especially in defining bold, pioneering use cases and goals, and be a stable, predictable funding source for innovations to happen.
So with military work, the requirements was a high vol, mil spec, mil grade, etc. So that translates well if ever the commercial markets ever were to take over or integrate said product across our portfolio. So I can't see a show of hands here of folks who have worked with military or any defense conduit in any way or form. But Phil Hahn at AFWERX is accustomed to people like us beating down his door, asking for help and guidance. Really, we just want money. But he helps guide us. He and his folk would help guide us towards the right path of this particular program, this funding conduit. Here's where the necessary players are, and here's where you have to go to achieve said project. So can you help everybody understand your side of the fence when you're dealing with people like us?
Sure. So a lot of what AFWERX was founded was to kind of bridge that gap of the commercial innovation to the department. In our case, Air Force and Space Force. But if you look back, the research labs, the darkest of the world, they still have all of their projects and programs in the work. But we really needed to tap into all of the amazing technology that was out there. Talk through the requirements process, the acquisition process in the DoD is very slow, and a lot of times we have to have that very solid requirement at the forefront. And so what we did at AFWERX was we developed something called the Open Topic, and this was more of a come pitch the government, come show us what your technology is. We want to be a partner. We don't be the only partner, I think, in that aspect of it. And so that has led to different funding, different ways that you could get your foot in the door, get some of that, startup capital, get some funding early on, and provide those opportunities, provide that foresight to showcase your technology to different parts of the DoD that we can then pass that along. And so that development life cycle was something that we built out at AFWERX and at the other innovation organizations in the DoD to really help with more of think of it more as a partnership instead of just an ownership aspect that the government is starting to play.
Great. I'm going to pick on you a little bit more, so keep that in mind. What we've seen, the companies have seen the military evolve, and I'm going to get off the military in a second, but we've seen the necessary groups evolve from just a traditional RFI, RFP process with evolutions of having an AFWERX, having a SOFWERX. DIU has been especially refreshing, the Defensive Innovative Unit, which in translation, instead of going to the robust $700 billion Army website and looking at it, and it's a massive entity, the Army. But the DIU has unleashed a really interesting conduit where you go to a website with great beauty, great user interface, easy to navigate, it's modern. They put out a project. This is all new within the last couple of years. And instead of closing down your business for a couple of weeks to write this robusto proposal, they simply ask you for a 5-page written proposal or 15 slides, not 16, not 13, 15 slides. You hit submit. They let you know within 2 or 3 weeks whether or not you move on. And they have simply streamlined the process. So how have you seen that evolve in your career, in my former career at AFWERX? Have you had a hand in helping generate that evolution?
The whole point coming into this was understanding it through the eyes of the small business, through the eyes of the startup, through the eyes of new technologists. Before really the using the AFWERXs of the world, the defense space was kind of heading from that standpoint. Like they didn't want to invest. Venture capital actually told investors, to not go work in the military or work in the department. For the sole factor of it's just going to take a long time. It's going to suck resources. So a big key point that we were trying to get to was, how do we make this process quicker? How do we let them know whether we want to play or not? Do we have the capital and the funding that we can put in place for the technology companies to run them through the life cycle that is the larger acquisition process in the department? And it's not just military application, like we talked about dual use. The title is dual use. And so that was a real factor into what we were looking at, because we don't want to necessarily be that end customer. Because when you look through, again, the acquisition lifecycle the department, there are valleys, there are clips, there are, we're in a CR right now, a continuous solution, where the fund may not come. So we definitely look for those dual use technologies to be able to have your private sector client, your commercial client, as well as working with the department to better develop your technology.
And super quick, and then we'll evolve the discussion more commercial. Xiaoyu, can you give us an example of if you have leveraged any of these new form submittals for funding? Because after all, our businesses need to eat, and in order to get off of the ground, some of us need to find capital to go out there to help fuel said projects.
Yeah, definitely. We actually recently won a contract from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to provide a technology that can be used to invest, to monitor and inspect dams and locks in the Pittsburgh area. And the process was smooth, as you said, because it's improved based on the needs of small businesses, and the contract is very easy to execute, and it really provides stabilizing cash flow for us to further develop our technology and really focus on getting the technology out rather than satisfying investors' requirements. So this is this kind of innovation in the government space is really helpful, critical for innovation.
And if I can add to that, so that's a perfect example where it's I think you're working with the military, you're working with the Army. It's not just bombs and drones and stuff that's gonna attack. We have critical infrastructure, we have the locks and the dams and everything else, and so finding the technologies so we don't have to send a diver down to look at things, or those are the real reason of dual use that we're looking at. I want to make sure that everyone understands it's not just the weaponization of your technology. It is how we further build the national security industrial base.
Saw early, really quick bits that were able to help get your company off of the ground, and you were leveraging simpler platforms as opposed to these large, robust government, scary proposals.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. But yeah, our business, we've been in business for 6 years, and that is how we have won the majority of our contracts, is through flexible, these like new smart operations like AFWERX, Army Application Lab, AFWERX. And we were able to apply quickly, get an answer quickly. And I think one of the biggest benefits is that the reporting on it is so much easier than anything you've ever encountered if you've ever applied for like an NSF grant or anything like that. The reporting on it is so easy, and the payout on it is very quick and flexible as well. For example, for folks that have not worked with AFWERX, I don't know that there's been a time in 6 years that I've billed them and they haven't turned around a payment in like 3 days. So, lots of really amazing opportunities out there.
Yeah, and this is vital in order to get our business off the ground and keep them fed until they've hit that magic button where they're meet the runway over here, where they have found the path to productivity and to revenue generation and then subsequently profit. So I have something I'm going to pitch to you about commercial, about transitioning to commercial, but I'll share a little of how we view it at Carnegie Robotics. So the group up here views it as commercial and defense, and I'm sure you do the same, right? So the revenue that we bring in, the projects and the programs that we work on, be it software, hardware, or just a product or an engineering service, we like to segment our revenues between commercial and defense. Now, how you break that down revenue-wise or just hypothetically, commercial is the fun stuff, right? Those are the programs that you're working with a privately held, a private company, a publicly traded company, or whatever, non-military, right? And you can build a relationship, you get that contract, to get that work, you get that collaboration, that partnership. And, you got to go through this master services process where you're going to arm wrestle over the IP and the exclusivity and the termination clauses, and basically can get the kids in the divorce. Right? Margins are higher in work like that, north of 10, 15, 20% margin, because it's cool, exciting work with a private or publicly traded company. Then you have defense work, right? I'm not saying that it's boring, because it's not. It's actually quite exhilarating and exciting, because it leads to commercial in the future, right? You have to go through a difficult time sometimes to get set government contract. The margins on government work are much small, 5%, 6%, 7%, but it's non-dilutive capital, right? It's non-dilutive capital. I know with our work, we get pretty special intellectual property right to help us build subsequent platforms. So the reason that I shared that with you is because we have been successful as a company now, 15 years old and growing, to create a diverse model. Whereas years ago, our government and defense work was probably around 15, 20% of our revenues, where now at the close of last year is about 50-50. So that is a diverse model, right? So I share that with you because we believe that that's what we have to do as a company in order to, there could be, sadly, a global conflict that could impact our business with private companies, right? There could be a presidential election just occurred, or there could be shifts in Congress. Taylor and Travis may break up. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could occur that could impact the trajectory of our business. That's why we must be diverse at all times. So I turn over to commercial, and I'm looking at you, Sanjiv. You guys started on commercial and are really working heavily in military. Are there plans long-term to take your technologies and to adapt them and integrate them into the commercial world?
That's great. Since the topic of this panel is about dual use, we think about this all the time, and it's a good thing to bring up.
I'll tell you about
a conference I went to in Huntsville, where the Army Aviation is, and what they talked about is that we have three uses of drones or unmanned aircraft. Called it find it, move it, kill it. Okay, a little hard to take sometimes. I love the brevity of it. It is not the same thing, right? You don't, the thing that you find and then kill the thing that you won't. It's three missions, right? So now that having said that, so the question is, where, if we're going to do a military kind of start, will we find a commercial use case? So I'll tell you that the two cases, the find it and move it part, have commercial applications. The find it may be a little bit more nuanced, because find it might not be just find a target, but it's like finding something, a fault in there. So inspection is a big deal with drones. We actually have a enterprise, much like your term. We have a division called Proxim that is looking to inspect large aircraft with small targets. Okay. And the idea is just like you want to do all sorts of predictive analysis. You want to be able to capture some data, use these small drones that could fly around without any infrastructure, map a large aircraft like a C-17, but also could be A380 or 777, 787, and then be able to find the defects and deal with all of this sort of logistic data analytics that's associated with the aircraft, which is a very big deal. Hard to be in the military for reasons of footprint, the number of people involved, but also very, very useful for the commercial side. Okay. So we have deployments in Doha, working with Emirates and other places. Also at the same time, we're working with the U.S. Air Force to inspect large aircraft. The other side, the movement side, is it's like an obvious thing. You
DHL, UPS, you name it, that actually want to move things. And the idea is that to move these things autonomously without somebody safely, plus A and B, not the last mile, but the mid mile. You could actually be able to meet the cost per kilo of a truck. And that's a very, very attractive kind of a proposition to be able to do that. So all of these things are a little futuristic. It will take some time. It's not eager to be super progressive, or progressive is the wrong word, cutting edge, because they care deeply about safety. And, they'll get a lot of benefit from accelerating these technologies, get their hand slapped when something bad happens. So I think we have to prove these technologies out before we enter commercial service. How we're going to do that? Well, if you've had some technology flying off for tens or hundreds of thousands of hours in the military setting, then, we might be able to make the case that it's okay to fly between Allentown and Zillionople. Think about that.
That's a far. Well, the same with. There's going to be an evolution into the commercial space. So without giving away too much and people tweeting it out, what can you share what you're looking at in the commercial space?
Yeah. I think that for us, I agree with everything you said, Sanjiv. Safety is very, very important. So I see in the future KEF's products being a backup system for large aircraft, right? So GPS fails, comms fail, pilot can't figure out how to land an aircraft, might not know where they are in airspace. A system like ours could be able to lead that pilot home safely. So this is in the future. Right now, we can see this all over the world. Right now, we can't even get a small drone from point A to point B without conflict. Right now, there's been a ton of news about airplane accidents and also just confusion in, GPS. So we need to solve these smaller problems first, in my opinion.
You know what? So 10 years ago, I remember, I think a lot of people can relate to this in the room. I remember going home, I saw a drone. And I would tell my wife, go, babe, I saw a drone. Yeah, I saw a drone. The dude had a little joystick and he had a little camera on it. It was a GoPro. Like the guys that jump off the mountain, really could see perfectly crystal clear. Well, how about that? Fast forward 10 years now, everybody and their stepsister has a drone. And there's a drone company sprouting up, probably 10 today in this room, right? So it's and I love that. I love that innovation. I love that entrepreneurial spirit. So those are the challenges that you dealt with to try to find that unique value from. We also saw it in autonomy with military. If you went 10 years ago to an AUSA, Association for U.S. Army, you walked in and you were autonomizing a thing. You were the bell with the ball. Today, everybody's doing it. So our businesses are tasked with constantly evolving and finding that unique value prop. So in the Aquatonomy space, how are you looking at the future? Because right now you guys are building software for cutting edge processes, but you're going to see where you're going to go in the commercial space, or is it the unknown?
It is actually not unknown. The reason I'm going to say this is because we're fortunate enough to build very early customer engagement, even before our products are ready, to deeply understand what the customers' needs are, what their needs are, and how they would like the solution to work for them, both because we're in dual technology space. We engage customers both in the government sector and both in the commercial sector. Underwater environments are very difficult to reach, navigate. There's no GPS, and it presents a very different set of challenges compared to land and sky. Amazingly, currently, most of the underwater inspections are still done by divers. It is very dangerous and difficult work environment. And it's also very expensive because of the challenges. By introducing autonomy, as I said, that we're specialized in autonomous underwater navigation and mapping, especially in complex areas and in turbid water. So by introducing autonomy, we drastically accelerate and simplify underwater data collection. And because of the localization technology that we developed, we're able to build 3D models that are accurate, allowing the users to identify problems and keep track of changes. So by introducing the cutting-edge technology in the industry, we transform how things are done. So that is the future that we're seeing.
I love it. I want to jump real quick because we have 5 minutes left to see if there's any questions, if everybody's okay with that. And where to go? Go for it. You, but shout it.
Everyone.
Send what they're looking at or sensing to a human at the ground. But a lot of the smaller form drones, the legacy is that they come with some custom GCS. If that thing breaks, then the drone is doing, kind of worthless. So how do you guys think about that? How do you think about, as a drone company, what's your responsibility to think about the network? Or do you leave that to others for thoughts?
Yeah, thank you.
We decided that we wanted to actually work on the autonomy in the air, but we wanted to create a whole ecosystem for how drones could be used to request for supplies, to then monitor the aircraft that actually deliver it, to retask them, or doing anything that is exceptional. So we created a thing called push button delivery, which sits on top of some standards like ATAG. Okay, so push button delivery has exactly the amount of information that a person in the field needs for just the logistics task. And you can imagine, I think the way to do this is not confusing kind of a panel with all sorts of status, like somewhere in here with lots of tabs, et cetera, to be able to look at the different status. You want to know as the requester, hey, I asked for something, I asked for this in the field, and now how far away is it? And it's close by. Is it okay to land, loiter, or land okay to land? And if it's not, if the person doesn't respond, it have to make its own mind up whether it's okay to land or go back. So this is the idea of what we call push button delivery. And I think the idea of comms channels, I think you want to be completely transparent to whatever is out there. So in our case, we use radios, ones that the Marine Corps uses. We use some sort of SATCOM kind of thing, and any other kind of like cell service. It's all built into comms channel, just completely transparent to the user. So if you're nowhere where there's infrastructure, then you have a slower lane. Okay, and the idea is that the person on the either end of the delivery thing is only look at very, very low bandwidth kind of using all the information that's already out there, and so you can get it faster, or you can, whatever is the mode that works the best at that time. So that's just completely transparent. We don't want to take any kind of stake into what kind of channel should be used.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question? Oh, enthusiastic in the front.
Hi, my name is Shania, and my question was around a point that you mentioned that the FAA is being super cautious with, allowing commercialization of technology like drones. But then we see companies like Zipline, Primary already building infrastructure for, delivering last mile delivery. Do you have a metric or a number of years where you can say, okay, in these very commercial drones are going a normal thing in society, or at least in the US?
We could go 15 seconds less. I want to more.
I don't think that there is any such thing, any prediction that works here. I think it has to do with politics. It has to do with the level of safety society decides this wants to. I can say more later.
First network.
Bob Kirk, Wilkinson Barker. I had a quick question on the public panic, the fever pitch over drone sightings in the Northeast. Do you think that's going to be good for business or bad for business, and why?
Those were all bit strong.
Mike, you said you were going to tell us very well.
was watching. Yeah. I can just tell Thanksgiving it was the set for this. Those are your films? Those are your films? Sorry, can't say. If I hadn't told you, I'd have to shoot you. I think that there's some hysteria here about the kinds of drones. We just haven't gotten used to it. Just like self-driving cars, this is technology that the technology works, but there's a question of public acceptance. This is going to take some time for us to be able to do this.
Hey, folks, my name is Taryn. Very nice discussion. I kind of have a very, maybe like a general question for folks as someone who's worked on autonomous systems in the past. With the advent of where AI is going, the innovations in AI specifically, how fast are your guys' development cycles for your stacks? And is there an AI tool or an AI system that you think would make your work faster?
Okay, so look, AI and machine learning are sort of being conflated. I don't know what you call it. I've been betting that is the case, that is machine learning. We try as a company not to put any of that into safety critical systems. Okay, safety critical systems need a process. It's that part I talked about the assurance that you need to prove to people that all the stakeholders, the user, the sponsor, and even the insurers, this thing's going to work. And aviation has very established standards. 178, DO 254. You can't skip those kinds of these things is going to have some sort of a lasting impact. So, hey, you want to use machine learning to possibly detect lung cancer early? Go for it. You want to detect that your carburetor is potentially misfiring ahead of time, early warning, or your tires are getting worn out. Go for it, ahead of time. But to put it inside of this, I think it's a mistake. And all of these people kind of think that more data is going to solve the problem. Just see how many years it is before we have 1 million robotaxis running around. That was promised many years ago. I'm still waiting. So I think,
we take a similar approach. I know we're over time, but if you want to get up and leave, you can leave. But I know there's probably 2 more questions. If you'd like, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Get him, Sanjiv. Sorry, rest of the panel. I'm just going to have Sanjiv just take him. Okay, so there's a simple thing that I think the mayor of Pittsburgh, the ex-mayor of Pittsburgh said, we were talking about this. He said, well, what is the rule that you have to have? What is the common sense idea that if somebody put up a camera on your house looking into the neighbor's yard, the same thing should apply to drones, So there's some common sense things. I think I'm not as worried about privacy as I am with safety. And here's the thing that I want to say, a little controversial. The same things that we're working on to keep these aircraft fly safely,
when things go wrong could be used, lots of uses. If you have a low-flying craft that can fly by itself that doesn't need any comms, that doesn't need a GPS, where could it not go, right? So I think that the safety issue, bigger issue now, both from the idea of what happens if it doesn't work and it falls. Somebody walking their dog and then a drone falls on them. That's no. But what if it also works? What if it works really well? That's also not that great in the hands, in every set of hands. So I think there's safety issues on both sides that are much bigger than the privacy issues, which I think some common sense will sort out.
I'd like to end it there because we're over time and Sanjiv needs water.